Hi. You've seen the images through the day of farmers being tear gassed, of farmers being at the receiving end of water cannons, being at the receiving end of brute, disproportionate force. Just for a brief moment, for the sake of argument, let's pretend the farm bills, which the farmers are protesting against, are the most stellar piece of agricultural reform needed in this country brought by the government of the day. The question is this how anyone who disagrees with it should be treated? Is this how anyone who wants to peacefully protest against the farm laws should be treated? Now, Punjab's farmers have finally been given the permission to protest at the Nirankari grounds in North Delhi's Burari. This after a day and a half of a pitched battle, I think more than that. Let's see all that's happened in the last 36 hours and then form your opinion. Yesterday, as they began their Delhi Chalo protest march, they were stopped at the border with Haryana. Stopped with barricades, anti-riot vehicles, security personnel, and large trucks filled with sand to block their way. The farmers kept moving forward on foot and in tractors and trucks. They had obviously filled it with essential supplies, fortifying themselves really for the battle ahead, which they felt could last for weeks. They threw barricades into rivers, they braved water cannons and tear gas shells, and demanded that they be allowed to reach Jantar Mantar in the capital and peacefully protest against the centre's new farm laws. Now, through the day, as they marched through Haryana to cross into Delhi, they were met with what can only be called disproportionate police force. At night, they'd slept on roads near the Haryana-Delhi border. There was rain and chilly winds last night. Now, along the border, two police forces have been hard at work. The Haryana police, under Mr. Khattar, instructed to not let the farmers cross through to Delhi. And the Delhi police, that comes under the Home Ministry, instructed to not let them enter. So think of barbed wires, think of cement blocks, think of trucks filled with sand, as I said, think of large shipping containers, riot police, water cannons. They even dug up the highway leading to Delhi at places 10 feet deep. Highways. They're public, taxpayer-funded property dug up overnight just to prevent farmers from one state from protesting in the national capital. You would have seen footage of the farmers filling up the holes with mud, using the tractors to drag away the cement blocks, getting attacked with tear gas and water jets. They regrouped and they moved forward. Around noon today, as a few farmers were very close to Delhi, the Delhi police in fact fired tear gas again to disperse them. At least 35 to 40 rounds were fired. Now, a note here, I know tear gas is very common, but it's a chemical agent. It's banned in war under the Geneva Convention, but it says nothing about use on civilians. So police embrace it very often, not just here in India, this is true for across the world, and it's just a perspective. Back here, ask any police officer on the ground today, including the DCPs, and they say the farmers can't enter or couldn't enter because the COVID-19 situation in Delhi is terrible right now. Allowing them would be disastrous, not just for the farmers, but for Delhiites as well. Fair point. Delhi is going through a third wave it can't seem to shake off. But is the solution to violently disperse the farmers? Also remember, farmers can't come to Delhi because of COVID-19, but back-to-back election rallies can be held in Bihar. Also that you end up injuring thousands of farmers. They are coughing, shouting, pushing and falling, and there are no masks in sight. If one needed it to be said, let's say it clearly, that the COVID-19 argument used by the government is a really tough one to digest. The government has said other things, two other things at least officially as a response to these protests. One, that they're ready to talk. That's a little hard to believe. Because remember, this particular nationwide protest and the general strike was called really weeks ago, but no one's been talking to the farmers except the Punjab farmers who at some point in time were sitting on tracks. So the farmers' unions are very, very correct in saying that they've been waiting for these talks to happen forever. That the time for these talks was really weeks ago. These talks should have happened before the bills were passed, or perhaps even after the bills were passed. The second thing that the government is saying, that the MSP or the minimum support price is guaranteed. Why are you protesting? We are saying it's guaranteed. The government says, the farmers say oral guarantees are not enough. We want a codified legal guarantee. The government says that's not possible. You're simply changing the goalposts. In fact, many agricultural economists will actually also say the same, that no government can bring in a law guaranteeing MSP. Now, the thing is, many of these things could have been sorted if we were talking to the farmers, not through water cannons and tear gas shells. The third point that's come across, and that's often put across obliquely, is that this is just a handful of farmers. These are just Punjab's farmers who are against the centre's farms bills. That's not true, but it is true that Punjab's farmers who do get the benefits of the minimum support price are the most visible face of these protests. And the way in which these protests have been handled have also put them at center stage. I also want to bring your attention to the aspect that in some quarters you will see an attempt to demonize the farmers, saying this is all politics, the farmers are being misled, the farmers are responsible really for everything, including Delhi's pollution. Now, in response, the farmers have their typical wry humor, and many unions will actually say this, that they've seen many governments come and go, many promises being made by many governments, but they've not seen the situation of the farmer improve. So no, they're not going to be misled. And the second aspect on politicization and farm unions being left enabled, or the Congress treating the farmers better in Punjab, let's also remember that Punjab's 3 state laws that were brought in to counter the centre's laws are nothing more than just a political statement. The farmers know that. They also know that the Congress's manifesto had something very close to what the centre is attempting to do. So safe to say, yes, farmers' unions may have political affiliations, but the farmers are also standing as a group against these laws. So the question is, how can a government, any government, justify the brazenness with which they've tried to stop peaceful protests? Or really the obstinate behavior in not having a meaningful conversation with the farmers and giving them the dignity they deserve? Or just the ease with which the police reloaded their tear gas shells throughout the day today? We must think about all these issues no matter where we stand on the farm bills. I know many of you have questions regarding the farm bills. It's something we found newsworthy earlier. It's something we picked up earlier regularly ever since the farm bills were passed with hardly any members of parliament present there. Oddly, I have to say, the only time we as a nation remember our farmers is when they go on protest. We put all that coverage for you on a YouTube playlist. It sits right at the top of the channel. Please spend some time there. We'll also update you with another video explaining the farm bills further and why farmers are unwilling to believe the government on their promises. I'm Anubha Bhonsle. This is Newsworthy. Thank you for your time.